Have you ever heard of an execution so brutal, so terrifying, that people still whisper about it over 1,000 years later? It's called the Blood Eagle, an ancient Viking ritual said to be so gruesome, even warriors feared it. But was it real? Or just a legend designed to scare enemies into submission? Today, we're diving deep into one of history's darkest tales, the Viking Blood Eagle, possibly the most horrifying execution method the world has ever known. Let's begin. The Vikings are often remembered as fearless warriors, fierce raiders, and bold explorers. They lived between the 8th and 11th centuries, coming from what we now call Scandinavia, mainly modern-day Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. They sailed across oceans in long ships, conquered lands, and built strong settlements. But beyond their weapons and seafaring skills, the Vikings had a brutal sense of justice. And at the center of their darkest punishments was the Blood Eagle. But what is the Blood Eagle? According to ancient stories, it was a form of execution reserved for the worst enemies, those who betrayed a Viking lord or killed a family member. It wasn't just about death, it was about sending a message. Here's how it was said to be done. The victim, usually a captured noble or enemy king, will be tied face down or kneeling. Then, using sharp knives or axes, the Vikings would cut open the person's back. They would break the ribs from the spine one by one, and then pull them outward to form the shape of wings. Next, they would pull out the lungs and drape them over the ribs, making it look like the person had wings made of flesh and bone. To make things even worse, some stories say that the victim was still alive during the process. The Vikings believed that if the person screamed, they would not enter Valhalla, their warrior heaven. But if they stayed silent, they died a true warrior's death. Shocking, right? But before we get carried away, let's ask the big question. Was the Blood Eagle real? To answer that, we have to look at the sources. The Blood Eagle first appears in Norse sagas, epic stories written in Iceland during the 12th and 13th centuries, centuries after the Viking Age. These sagas describe a few cases where the Blood Eagle was used, especially against royal enemies. One of the most famous stories involves King Ælla of Northumbria. According to the Ragnar Sona, a with a QTTR saga, King Ælla killed the legendary Viking Ragnar Lothbrok by throwing him into a pit of snakes. In revenge, Ragnar's sons invaded England, captured Ælla, and carved the Blood Eagle on his back. Sounds like a perfect revenge tale, doesn't it? But here's where historians start to argue. There's no physical evidence that the Blood Eagle was actually performed. No skeletons with eagle-shaped rib damage. No eyewitness accounts. Only poetic stories written down long after the events took place. So could it be a misunderstanding? Some experts think so. They believe the descriptions in the sagas might be metaphorical. In Old Norse poetry, violent acts were often described with dramatic images. Carving an eagle on someone's back might have meant a brutal killing in battle, not an actual ritual. Others think it was propaganda. Imagine how scary it would be to hear that the Vikings might cut open your back and turn your ribs into wings. It's the kind of story that would terrify your enemies, and that might have been the whole point. Still, a few scholars argue that the Blood Eagle could have been real, maybe even performed just once or twice as a ritual sacrifice to the gods, especially Odin, the god of war and death. In fact, Viking religion and mythology were filled with ideas about blood, honor, and pain. Sacrifices, both animal and human, were not uncommon. Whether it really happened or not, people remember the story, and it became part of Viking legend. Over time, the Blood Eagle became one of the most terrifying symbols of Viking cruelty. It appeared in books, movies, TV shows, and games, often shown as a gruesome punishment for betrayal or cowardice. But here's something important to remember. The Vikings were more than just brutal warriors. They were also traders, farmers, builders, and poets. They built complex societies with laws, art, and deep spiritual beliefs. While violence was part of their world, it wasn't all there was. So why does the blood eagle still fascinate us? Maybe it's because it sits right on the edge of myth and reality. It challenges us to think about how far people can go for revenge. It shows us the dark power of storytelling, and it reminds us that history is often a mix of truth and legend, shaped by those who lived it and those who wrote it down. So, was the blood eagle the most terrifying execution in history? Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is certain. It's a story that has captured human imagination for over 1,000 years, and it still makes our blood run cold. Thanks for watching. If you found this story as chilling and fascinating as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more journeys into the darkest corners of history. Until next time, stay curious and maybe sleep with the lights on tonight.